Day number 3 at Romford Horror 2026. We've just played Hellraiser 2 Hellbound, and we are very excited to have the lovely Barbie with us. Give her a big round of applause, please.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. So the first question is, talk to us about the journey for you becoming part of this film, please.
Okay, so you may all be aware that when Clive, he said, I think there was, Rawhead Rex was the first adaptation of his work, and he didn't like the direction, so he said, the next one, I'm going to direct it. And he had a theater company at the time called the Dog Company, I think. And so he used Doug and Nick and Simon Bamford and all these people from his company, got his cousin Grace Kirby to come down from Scotland and play the female Cenobite. And Doug, I'm stealing one of Doug's stories, he said, Clive came up to me and said, listen, I'm going to direct this movie. Would you like to be in it? There might be a bit of makeup. And Doug had the chance at either the moving man or the lead Cenobite. And Doug went, do I want to play somebody where my face isn't showing? But in the end, he went for, as you know, the lead Cenobite. But so I came into the family because Grace refused to do any heavy makeup ever again. She said, I'm not even going to come south of the Scottish border again. So they were casting for a female Cenobite. I got the call from my agent, and they said, do you want to go and do a casting for a Cenobite in Hellraiser 2? And I went, oh, no. Because I'd seen the film, and everyone said, oh, Stephen King says he's the new face of horror. And I just went, oh my, I thought they wanted me to play the Chatterer. And I hated mask work. I'm a classically trained mime artist. And I've done mask work, and I hated it because I'm slightly claustrophobic. And then somebody, no, it's for the female. I went, oh, well, go ahead. So a friend of mine said, 30 years from now, they'll be writing books about you, Barbie Wilde, Queen of the B movies. And here I am, 38 years later, talking about it. So I arrive a day, I went to the audition, and Tony Randall, we were just talking, and he said, well, of course, Clive has invented the Cenobite. And I said, well, of course, it's actually a word in the dictionary. He said, no, Clive invented the word Cenobite. I said, no, it's actually in the dictionary. And he said, but Clive, and I said, no. And his assistant popped up and looked at the dictionary and said, Barbie's right. Now, pro tip, kids, don't contradict the director in an audition. But anyway, I got the part anyway, probably because I fit in Grace's costume, because it was her costume. And everybody knew each other, but everyone was so open and wonderful and adorable. But unfortunately, I was flying back. I'm Canadian, but I was visiting my parents in the States, and my plane got delayed for 24 hours. So instead of arriving the day before filming started, which was unwise to book it so close, I arrived the day of filming, took a cab from Heathrow directly to Pinewood. Everybody was mad at me because I was 3 hours late. It was 9 o'clock in the morning. So 4 hours of makeup, and then, or does that take me, 1 o'clock, so 5 hours of waiting, which is the usual. And then I'm on set, and it's the opening scene of the first time you see the Cenobites. And we're walking into Chanard's lab, and there's dry ice everywhere, and I always hear the music, but there wasn't any music. But I went up to Tony Randall and I said, what's my motivation? Because I was so jet lag, I would never have asked that. And he said, you're dead. And I went, I think what he meant, you're dead to me. But anyway, so I've got all this makeup on, I'm coming in, and all this weird shit's going on. There's poor little Tiffany trying to open the box. And Doug says that line. It is not hands that call us, but
design.
Thank you. And I just went, wow, this is odd. It's very strange. But at the same time, I was doing a film review program on the Night Network TV for ITV.
Mm-hmm.
And I had as big head of hair as Julia does, as Claire Higgins did.
Yeah.
And they had to stuff it under a skull cap every morning and stuff like that. But it was wonderful, and we're still friends now. Clive is very supportive of my work as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a happy meeting,
Mm.
but a bit, it was strange.
Yeah.
I'd never been in a horror movie before, so it was quite wonderful.
And how much time were you actually on set? Because I mean, it's
Oh,
probably,
that.
you know, I might be wrong,
Uh-huh.
but you know, probably not that long.
I think my performance lasts an earth-shattering 10 minutes.
Right.
All, if you add it all up. But that's why it's so interesting, because at the end of Hellraiser 2, they thought it was going to be the character of Julia
Mm.
that was kept reappearing.
Mm.
But Claire went, oh, no, I'm going back to the theater. And so they sort of did their, whatever they do, take polls and stuff, and they realized the Cenobites are very popular.
Mm.
And so Doug did 3 to 9 or whatever, how many there are. And so that was it. But, you know, Clive had created a new kind of monster.
Mm.
How often does that happen? I mean, it's quite wonderful, really. And also, they're not running through the forest with a chainsaw, you know, chasing some girl in a boob tube.
Yes.
They're standing there and being menacing.
Mm.
And one of the things you learn in mime is the idea of stillness, which is, you know, Clive was always fascinated by mime. And so I think that's one of the reasons they were looking for people with that kind of physical theater
Mm.
experience.
And it's probably a silly question, but how does it feel, you know, to have been part of such an important legacy to horror fans? I think for a lot of people it probably doesn't, you'd never really understand the weight of something like that, and it's something that's definitely stays with you.
Well, the thing is, I did have a job at the same time doing TV presenting.
Okay.
And so you do a job, and then you're on to your next one. And it wasn't for years, I think 2005. I mean, oh, do you want to do a horror convention? And I went, why? What? Huh? And I didn't realize that Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2 had been, done all the sequels, but also been on heavy rotation on the horror channel. Horror channels. Be careful how I pronounce that. In America.
Yeah.
So I had no idea how popular it had become. I mean, I went to the premiere, obviously, and I also arranged a charity premiere for it as well, a Hellbound. And so, but I had no idea it had become so popular. And, you know, people come up to me and say, you scared me to death when I was 11 years old. And I just say, what were your parents thinking?
Yeah.
There's S&M stuff in this movie. But hey, you know, that's the glory of Clive. And, you know, it's wonderful because I think Clive Barker is a genius. Like I said, he invented a whole new type of monster. But there's also the thing of being involved with something, you know, touching genius,
Yeah.
if you like.
How many conventions do you think you've done over the course of, you know, where you've chiefly been representing Hellraiser 2?
Yeah. I don't know. I did quite a few a year and a half ago in 2024, because that was the last year Clive was going to do conventions, and so they got us all in, which was lovely, spending, you know, time with him. But not that many here in the UK. And I did one in Scotland last November, and, you know, stuff like that. I did a couple in Germany. I think the first one I did was, the NEC.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Comic-Con-y kind of thing. And then I did some in Germany, because the Germans are into horror movies. And oh God, I just remembered. Sorry. Somebody wants me to be in a French con, and I've had to say no, I think. But anyway, so it's interesting. I think there's always going to be a fascination for horror. So, but it's great meeting the fans.
Mhm.
And horror fans are the best because they're really respectful, and also you scared the poots out of them when they were kids, you know, the poots. But it's interesting, you know, because I'm always fascinated by people's reaction to this film. And it's nice to see that they're still faithful fans of the first couple Hellraiser films. I mean, Hellraiser 2 has been always, I don't know, until recently maybe topped the list of best horror sequels. Probably because the fans love the fact there's more emphasis on maybe the background, especially of the lead Cenobite, Pinhead, Hell Priest.
Yes.
What is his name this week?
For those of you that aren't going to be aware of the story, would you like to recount the story you told me about outside about the neck?
Yes. Okay, I was selling this one picture for many years, and suddenly realized, what's that thing? What? Oh, shit. Well, this picture was from the Hellraiser Chronicles book, and it's me looking pretty ferocious. And then, if you look closer, you see this thing sticking out of my neck, right? Now are we all adults here? Oh, so glad. It was Chanard's penis tentacle coming out of my vulva throat. And it was glued there. And I had to walk around all day with this thing glued to my throat to the merriment of cast and crew. Now, as I said, I was doing film review. They invited Barry Norman, who was a film critic, who didn't like the first one, to the set. And he was like my hero, being a film critic myself. Barry Norman's on set, so I hide behind a box. Because I don't want to say, hey, hi, Barry, you want to check out my penis tentacle glued to my vulva throat? I just felt so embarrassed. Now, Barbie Wilde today would go, hi.
Yeah.
But, I was just, and they were, Barbie, where the hell are you? And I was like, oh, what an asshole I am. But it was just such a stupid thing. But it was very weird. And then I had to do my death scene, basically, which is there's a man kneeling at my feet, my favorite position. No, I'm sorry. And he's got two little balloons of blood, and it's all going up under the makeup, through the throat. And then I had to jerk my head back like the thing had hit me, and then the blood comes streaming out in two rather unfortunate fake-looking streams, I thought to myself. But hey. But I always thought to myself, considering my first direction from Mr. Randall, if I'm already dead, how could they kill me at the end of this film? How many people were disappointed at the end? We don't want to see our Cenobite stuff. But that whole scene with the chains chunking around, one of them hit Doug in the pin and knocked it off instead of in, which was good. But those long before health and safety stuff. And I actually refused to do a stunt. They wanted me to stand, and then this anchor chain flew past with an iron hook and hit the wall. But what they would do is reverse the shot. And so the prop guy was holding it, and I'd be there, and it would go right past my face. And I said, could you just show me how that works? And that chain and the hook hit the wall with this sound like a thunderclap. And I said, fucking Ada, rather louder than that. And I said, there's no fucking way I'm doing that stunt. And he said, listen, it's safe as houses. I'll stand there. Because he showed me where I was supposed to stand. I said, it's okay. If anything happens to you, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. And that's why I got the reputation of being rather troublesome. Because nobody really cares about the actor. Nowadays, it's quite different, she hopes. But it is, but you know, if you see the movie, the scene's there. I don't know how they managed it. Anyway, there you go.
So, unfortunately, you're going to have to shout, but do we have any Hellraiser 2 questions from the audience? One right at the back. Go on.
Multiple question really. When you first started in the film, did you think it would blow up to where it is now? There's 11 sequels, by the way, as you asked earlier.
Yes, I know.
And I know Doug's involved. Are you having any involvement in the upcoming video game for Hellraiser?
There you go. Those are your 2 questions.
Okay, the second one, the game. The female Cenobite in the game, I actually emailed my manager going, looks a lot like me. And they said, there's nothing you can do. And unfortunately, I don't have my contract handy. But it was a standard equity contract, and I probably signed away my firstborn child, et cetera, they use Doug's image all the time without asking his permission. But luckily he, of course, but that voice, what a voice. So, no, I wasn't asked. And it's sad. And so I'm not involved, sadly. But what was the first one? Oh, was I aware? No, as I said before.
It was going to go into like 30 sequel movie based on acid.
I had no idea that it was doing as what it was doing. Because if you ask a lot of ladies of horror, you'll find a lot of them don't watch that many horror movies. And I'd sort of, gone on to other things. And so this was, things I love horror movies, but I'm fussy, And so I had no idea that it was going on with all these sequels and stuff. But basically, they moved the operations to the United States. And Doug said that was the first time that people started paying attention to him as an actor, really, was the third one. Yeah. So there's this wonderful minute when we were in the hanging anchor chains thing, and Doug got hit, and they, oh no, and got this repaired. And I noticed that all the chains were tied up so that they wouldn't bother the camera crew. And I said, how come you guys get the safety chain thingy? And they said, because we're more important than you. Sorry, in an English accent. Because we're more important than you. So, not very nice. But I think that like I said, I had no idea. And I've only seen the first 2 since, really. So I never got into watching the other ones. But I do watch horror movies, but like I said, they sort of have to be. I mean, I find it very interesting what's happening coming out of France now with, say, The Substance by Coralie Fargeot and these body horror stuff that women are doing. I think that's wonderful. And I'm good friends with the Soska sisters who did American Mary and the reboot of Rabbit and stuff like that. So, but I didn't have any idea how Hellraiser ballooned into this extraordinary sequel machine.
Cheers is the question. So now, you're an author.
I am.
Talk to us about the journey to authorship, shall we say?
Okay, well, I've always written, ever since I was a kid. And then I thought, wow, God, somewhere I've got a novel inside of me. And then when I first came to the UK, I had an English boyfriend I met in mime class. And I stole one of his books. It's called The Order of the Assassins by Colin Wilson. And that's where I discovered serial killers. And I became fascinated because, breaking news, I am so not a serial killer. But I was fascinated by someone who's got no empathy and who does these horrible things. And so I started to explore the idea of writing a book about the diary of a serial killer from the male perspective, exploring his sexual fantasies. And yes, it is sick as it sounds. But Fangoria called me one of the finest purveyors of erotically charged horror fiction around, because it's a whodunit. It's not a whodunit. I trace his journey from an art history professor to becoming a serial killer. And then I was in the midst of sweating over writing this, and Paul Kane, who had interviewed me for, it was this wonderful book called The Hellraiser Films and Their Legacy. He said, well, Barbie, would you write a story for The Hellbound Hearts, which was an anthology based on The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker, which was the basis of all the Hellraiser films. And it had to be based on the book. And in the book, the lead Cenobite is actually a woman, a female. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I came up with the idea. I said, okay, first I said, darling, no, I only write crime, and then I wised up. And the idea came to me, and I have issues with the Catholic Church, so I thought, let's make her a nun. And she's sick of being a nun. She was put into a convent against her will, and so she calls forth the Order of the Gash, and they're impressed with her capacity for suffering, and so they make her a Cenobite. That's the first story, and it actually topped the list, Bloody Disgusting, or whatever these, one of Dread Central's list of top Hellraiser stories never made into a movie, hopefully. And then I wrote another story where she gets her own box from the toy maker, and the third story she leads a rebellion of the female Cenobites against the male Cenobites, because she's sick of playing, second banana to you-know-who, and all hell breaks loose, and then there's an epilogue. I've written 4 female Cenobite stories. They're in a little collection called the Silesium Quadra, and Clive has given me his permission to turn it into a graphic novel, which is being worked on.
No.
So keep your eye out for Sister Celise. Now you may remember, if you're fans of the Da Vinci Code, that Silas, the assassin, had a Celise. It's a real thing. Opus Dei, you wear this thing that is around your thigh with inward little pointy bits, and you tighten it to remind you of the suffering of Christ. But some people like that kind of thing. So that's that story. And then I had a collection of short horror stories that went into a wonderful, my publisher now publishes Stephen King and Clive. But unfortunately my book went out of print. But it's full color illustrations. 3 of Clive's artworks are used. And people like Nick Percival, who did the Boom Comics covers, and Danny Serra, he's done some Hellraiser stuff too. They all did artworks for the stories, so it's quite wonderful. And I'm in a couple movies that are going to be coming out soon.
Okay, go on, tell us about those.
One's called Bloodstream.
Okay.
Lawrence is in it as well.
Okay.
And the legendary Witches of the Sands.
Where yes.
I play a film critic. Yay!
Excellent.
And in Bloodstream, I play a leader of a cannibalistic society, which is lovely. So, I've gone back into acting, but also I'm in 2 episodes of Dark Ditties Presents. The first one is, oh God, I can't remember the name of it. Oh no. The Offer. And that's got Nick Vince, Chatterer, Simon Bamford, Butterball, moi, Kenneth Branagh, and Oliver Smith. And
It's really good.
Yeah, no, it was brilliant. We filmed it in a mansion in the middle, near Boston, in eastern. It was amazing. And then, and of course, Witches of the Sands. So it's, getting back, losing my train of thought. Yeah, so I'm in The Offer, along with a whole bunch of other Hellraiser alumni, and Dad, which is brilliant. Dad is fabulous. So.
One last question for you. So a lot of your sort of background, pre-Hellraiser, was in music videos. Tell us a bit about that. Like, how did you fall into this world?
Okay. When I came to England, I it was part of my drama project, drama school thing in the States. And I had teachers from Rod and Lambda and all this kind of stuff. And then I took some mime classes at the dance center and met this guy called Desmond Jones. And I took classes with him. And then I fell in love with a mime artist. I know it sounds weird. And then we joined his company called Silence, and so I just stayed on. I was able to do that because my grandmother was actually born in England. And so I was this serious, classically trained mime artist doing mime shows. Marcel Marceau, the famous mime artist, came to see us, and he waved at me. And we were just poodling along, and then I don't know what happened to Silence, but so we decided to do my friend Tim Dry, who's in The Monster in Extra, by the way, and he was in Star Wars. We decided to do our own mime show, and so this guy called Robert Perino spotted it and said, "Do you want to join this dance group we have called Shock?" So it was 3 dancers, 2 mime artists, then we got another mime artist, Sean Crawford, and we were jigging about on stage, and then all of a sudden we got a record deal with RCA Records, and so we were doing obviously music videos. But then I had a boyfriend who was a record producer, and I was in his videos, a couple of his videos. And that's how it all started. And so I courted the market. I had bright blue hair, in blue-haired dancing mime artist people, trotting it about in videos. And then I also did a couple of my own songs, which sadly did not set the world alight. And then I decided, let's go back to acting. And that's why I went back into, I got Death Wish 3, Grizzly 2,
Yes.
scene. But, and then Hellraiser 2, and more.
Do we have any last questions from the audience before we let Barbie go and, maybe have a stiff drink? No? Okay. Oh, one at the back.
Hey, I think everybody thinks it's a shame that your character never got her own name, and it's just the Female Cenobite.
Yeah. Do you want to know why?
Oh, well, I was going to ask, did you ever come up with a name for her yourself?
Yeah, well, I sort of called her Sister Celise, and the 4 stories are like her backstory, if you like. Although it's based on the book, not the film.
Yeah.
But, okay. You may notice in the first film, it's lead Cenobite, shattering Cenobite, fat Cenobite, female Cenobite. During the filming, they got nicknames from the naughty makeup crew. Pinhead, which Doug hated, Chatterer, Butterball, and Deep Throat. You may know that as a notorious porno film from the 70s. Now, of course, we're talking about an American film company here. They said, we can't call her that for the second film, because it's a porno film, and we don't have sex in America. And so I got stuck with Female Cenobite, which was a bit of a poo. So that's why when I thought, when Paul Kane asked me to write a story from a female perspective, I thought, well, I'll give her a name. And getting sort of infernal inspiration from the Da Vinci Code, I called her Sister Celise. So that's what I call her in my head. So there you go.
Well, Barbie, thank you ever so much for coming
thank you.
and seeing us. Big round of applause, please.